people of Beirut have woken this morning up to absolute devastation and carnage after a huge explosion in the Lebanese capital.
The Lebanese Red Cross says more than 100 people have been killed, with at least 4,000 injured, but that number, unfortunately, is set to rise. There's still so many missing. Shockwaves were felt across the city as the blast flattened buildings and left many people buried in the rubble.
Joining us now live from Beirut is Hadi Nasrallah, who witnessed firsthand the explosion. Good morning to you, Hadi. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us where you were when the explosion occurred and what you saw?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So yesterday, prior to the explosion, I was visiting a friend in North Beirut, which is not far from where the explosion happened. I went down and we saw the fire happening in this industrial area. So we had to go from the highway next to it. So we passed right next to it. Fortunately enough, we were already past it when the explosion happened. So we were behind some few buildings at first. When the explosion happened, the waves, they shook me. I knew something was wrong because I suddenly lost my hearing in the car because I was taking a taxi. So I lost my hearing and I had a feeling that something just went through my soul. I didn't know what was I feeling. I couldn't hear. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't hear my voice. And I wanted to make sure that it's not just me. I was looking around me, what was happening. I looked at the taxi driver. He stopped the car and he looked back at me. Then I knew something was wrong because he was having the same looks. He was terrified. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I feel this massive explosion. I didn't hear it quite because maybe we were too close to hear it, but I felt something pushing me in the car. Suddenly, all the glass in the car disappeared. I didn't know if it fell, if it was sucked out, sucked in, I didn't know. But all the glass around us in the cars all collapsed. The glass around the buildings, it was raining glass all over the city. Cars just start hitting each other. No one knew how to drive. Everyone stopped their car, went down. It was an apocalyptic scene. It's something I really do not want to remember. I tried to forget. I didn't sleep all night just thinking about that specific scene. I ran to another taxi so I can get home. When I got home, although my apartment is kilometers away from where the explosion took place, the walls were cracked, the glass, everything was broken. The neighborhood, all the shops, all the glass went down, which made us confused. Where did the explosion where did it happen? Was it South Beirut, North Beirut, downtown? It was something I really never experienced in my whole life.
It must have been utterly terrifying. In a way, you were lucky not to have been very seriously injured. I mean, maybe because you were in the taxi, if glass was raining down all over you, you were lucky to have escaped as you did, really.
Exactly. I mean, if it was minutes away, if I was still on the highway facing the fire and the explosion took place, I'll be one of the people who are missing today because we were literally just meters away from the fire before the explosion happened.
Oh, my goodness.
Listening to you, Hadi, describe that moment, it sounds like there was a build-up of pressure in the car, which is why suddenly you couldn't hear. The driver turned around to look at you to see if you were feeling the same thing, and then that second wave went through you. Have you managed to process that at all? Have you spoken to some of your friends? Did they go through a similar experience?
Yeah, I spoke to friends who were actually even further from the explosion. They experienced the same thing. They said that they felt some pressures in their ears and they didn't even hear the explosion at first. But people who are further, they did hear it. They felt it's like some sort of an earthquake. Apparently, the further you get, the more you hear the explosion. So the closer we were, you couldn't hear. You just feel the wave or an earthquake or a shake in your body, but you don't actually hear the explosion unless you're very far.
So look, it's the morning after now, and over here in the UK, you and your friends and your family, I hope they are all safe. What's the feeling like? What's the atmosphere like over there?
I really can't explain the feeling. Although I've experienced a lot of explosions, and I was working as an independent researcher in Syria, and I've seen a lot of bad things, and I heard bad sounds of explosions, but what I've experienced yesterday was something I couldn't even absorb, I couldn't even comprehend until I didn't even sleep today. I just like for 40 minutes. When I woke up, just looking at the news, I didn't know if that was real or if I was dreaming. I still cannot explain how I'm feeling right now. I'm looking at my city half destroyed. It was almost wiped out from existence. Apart from my city where I grew up, doesn't exist anymore. It's something I really cannot explain right now.
It's unimaginable, isn't it, really? It's terrifying for you. Is anybody coordinating anything? Have you been contacted? Have you got people to get in touch with? Because this is a massive operation this morning, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying, our community we're already going through a lot. We have an economic collapse. We're going through the coronavirus pandemic. We had protests, anti-corruption protests, which made things very bad for us right now. So what happened now is, I think our people are now, we don't know what to do. The government don't know what to do. I think we're gonna have to wait for foreign help, I guess, as usual. But what happened today, nothing can fix this anymore.
Of course, it is bewildering and extraordinary. Look, Hadi, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those thoughts. Our thoughts are with you and your friends and family at this very, very difficult time, but we appreciate you joining us.
Look after yourself.